thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. Please interrupt me and ask me questions. It's more, I don't want to talk the whole time. I wanted to give you a perspective of America that may be different than yourself. What's the most important thing about the United States? And I really mean this. If an American goes to India, an American cannot become Indian. An American could get an Indian visa or an Indian passport. American could become a citizen of India, but an American cannot become really an Indian. And probably if I moved to India and had children, even my children would not really be Indians. And same thing is true in every other country. Germany, for example, if you guys or if I went to Germany, we get citizenship, but we would not be German. German is part of the culture. It's not just citizenship, but it's part of the culture. What's completely different about America is that anyone who comes to America can become an American. So American is not just about people who are born in America. America welcomes in people from other countries, and it allows them to become Americans. So you see people of different colors and nationalities and ethnicities, and they're proud to call themselves American. And as far as I know, that's the only country on the planet where you can really become something else like America. But as I say here, it's even better than that, because every country, even India, there is racism, there's discrimination, there's hatred, fair enough. But I would say for most of America, they look very well upon foreigners. When foreigners come to America and want to become Americans, other Americans really like that. And why wouldn't you like it? If someone wants to come and join your country, you're going to be happy that they want to join your country. So I think that's also a real difference in America. And finally, you can come to America, but you can keep your own culture with you can stay a Hindu or a Muslim or your cultural tradition. You can keep your own language. 14% of all Americans speak Spanish. There's no problem with it. And you say, I'm not going to learn English. I'm just going to stay with Vietnamese or Indonesian. No, probably it's allowed. So that's some amazing things. And what you may not know is that some of the Indian traditions are now very, very popular in America. Diwali is not quite as popular as Christmas, but it's almost as popular as Christmas. And so my own family, during the Diwali season, has Diwali parties, and go to Diwali parties. And I'm showing here a scene from San Antonio, Texas, which is where my family is from. I was wearing the hat. And they have the largest Diwali celebration in the United States. So the culture of America slowly being changed, I think for the better, by the other influences. Any questions? Arvind, I don't want to talk the whole time myself, so you guys can ask some questions.
Yeah, I want to add, because even that when you made a mention about Diwali, I think the holiday is also being declared on Diwali. A few provinces, a few states, that's what I heard. Because both my daughters stay there, they made a mention.
Yeah.
Even the celebrations takes place in White House also.
Yeah, it's yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's great.
So a little bit now about the culture. There is an aspect that I think is really important for all Americans. Let me ask you a question. Have you heard the term the American dream? Have you heard that before? Priya, have you heard
President,
that? Dream?
American?
The American dream. I don't know if you've heard that in India, but that's a very common expression, and that's really the cornerstone of the American culture. And I've written it down here: opportunity, growth, freedom. These are all aspects that are pointing towards the future. And I would really believe that in most Americans, we grow up hearing about this. It's in our soul. It's in our blood. And if I try to summarize it's all about the fact that we're not a steady state country where everything's the same. We want the next generation to have a much better life than what we had. And so the American dream is really growth oriented. And it may be one reason that so many people like to come to America, because they want, they want to improve, want to have improvements. Respect is another topic that really sticks out for me, because there's so many differences to a country like India. It's not that we don't respect people. In America, we absolutely respect people. But in so many cases, you have to earn somebody's respect. For example, if I have a manager, or if I have the manager as my manager, I don't treat that person special. That person is just another person. I'm not going to respect that person unless the person does something to make me respect them. So that's sort of an interesting part of the American worldview. Just because you're my manager, just because you're the mayor of the city, just because you're the president of the United States, I'm not going to give you any special respect. If you want my respect, you have to behave very well. And that sometimes goes for the family as well. We often treat our older relatives clear. That's no discussion. But not always. If we have older members of the family that don't fit in line with the rest of the family, then we may also say, hey, I love you, but I don't respect you. And so that's kind of a unique, it's something a little bit different between India and the United States. Maybe something interesting about the United States that you may not know. In India, I know that your politics are very interesting. Modi and various. I won't talk about politics. Probably you've heard that it's our election season, and we have our two candidates running. And you may have heard that somehow the United States is divided into two groups, what we call a red group and a blue group. And that's so important to understanding the United States that I really wanted to focus in on a little bit and explain to you what red United States and blue United States means, because that's, I think, very important. What we say is that the blue area, the Democratic area, that tends to be in the large cities where the people are very well educated. So if you the red areas are what we would call the rural areas. And so you see that a bit in India as well, right? You have downtown Mumbai, which is not just the finance capital of India, but it's probably the finance capital of the world. And then you have rural Karnataka. You have these differences. The problem is that the population is split 50-50. You have about half of the people with very good educations, making a lot of money, very wealthy, international experience. You have half of the country that doesn't. And the question is, how do you make one set of rules or laws that makes everybody happy? And that's really, I think, one of the challenges in America, is that we're so big and diverse. What's good for some people is not good for other people, and that's really a challenge that we have. I'll talk about that a little bit here to tell you what's called the Bible Belt, and belts, like putting a belt around your pants. It's the region of the United States in the southeast and the central south, and it's a very religious part of the country. People grow up, and when I say religious, I mean Christian religion. They grow up very, very religious. They take religion very, very seriously, and they have beliefs that are very, very religious oriented. Abortion must be illegal. Alcohol is bad. And that's really quite different from other parts of the country that believe different things. So it's hard to have one set of laws that makes everybody happy. There's some people, for example, in the Bible Belt, they want things one way. There's people in the other part of the country, they want it a different way, and it makes life very, very difficult. For us as Americans, and I think my guess is Indians are probably similar. We have to interact with each other in society. And when I interact with a person in a different group, he or she knows that some of my beliefs are different. And I know that his beliefs are different. And we don't discuss our beliefs. And we just try to stay in the region where we both can agree. and I tell you, I'm not a racist person, I not at all, but I've had many, many friends and business partners who are very racist people. And we work together, we interact together because we can split ourselves and say, hey, I know there's things that we just don't talk about. I know he or she believes different things than I believe, and we leave that out. And I think that's something Americans are very good at doing. Let me go to a little bit now. If there's no question, maybe to bring the focus a little bit to education, I'll just talk a few words about the educational system, because there's probably some things that'll surprise you. If you have the money and the opportunity, which not everybody does, students can go to school from the ages from 3 to 5. That's what we call preschool. The official school kicks off for students that are 5 years old in what we call kindergarten. We have what we call our elementary system, which is levels 1 through 6, ages 5 through 11. The junior high school levels, ages 11 to 14. And finally, we have the high school levels, ages 14 to 18. And in many, many states, students can already leave school at the age of 16. Around 5% of them choose to leave early. Makes it very difficult for them economically, but they choose to leave school. Around half of all American students participate in a school lunch program. Mainly that's economically driven. There's a lot of poverty in America today. I don't want to compare that to poverty in other countries like developing countries, but from a relative scale, there's a lot of families in America who can't afford food, and so there are really a lot of children that depend on school for their breakfast and for their lunch. And it may surprise you. It surprised me a little bit. I looked it up. 52 to 53% of students participate in one of these lunch programs. Showing some of the differences, there are particularly in the states that are rural, people like to hunt, to kill animals. And so many of the schools have closed for several weeks during the season that the hunting is taking place, just so that the children can go hunting with their parents. So that may be something that surprises you a little bit too. Any questions? Okay.
Can I have one question?
Yeah, please.
You made a mention about the 5% of the students leaving the school. Any reasons, specific reasons for that?
I usually, the immediate reason is they're doing badly in school, they don't have interests, they're not motivated, they have family problems at home, things of that nature. That's sort of the immediate reason they leave. The bigger picture is that our country doesn't do a good job compared to Switzerland and Germany of inclusion and making sure that everybody benefits from the school. And so you have a lot of students that are very active in school. Their parents are active in school. They have an inclusion in school. But you have many students that don't have that attachment to school, and they leave. And it's our culture, it's our laws that don't encourage that. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So and I wanted to show a few shocking facts, but it's not minor facts. It's what I would call very important facts that have really changed in the last years. And the biggest change right now is what we call school shootings. A student brings a gun to school and kills other students. And this happened today. Earlier this morning, I was watching television. There's a student that brought a gun to school. And I think thankfully he only killed 2 or 3 people. I say thankfully because, as you've probably heard in the news, there's times when students bring guns and they kill 10 people or 20 people. It's awful how much this is happening, and the problem is growing. So here's a picture of these school shootings from 2008 until today, and you can see from year to year it's getting worse. A lot of students have experienced gun violence. It's really a bad situation. Now, for you guys who are teachers, what does that mean? It affects your life, because 99% of schools, the teachers are trained to deal with shootings. And once a month, the school will have what they call an active shooter drill. And you as teachers have been trained how to lock the door, how to protect your students, how to leave the school as fast as possible. You're required to have mobile phones at all times because the alert will come in on the mobile phones. Some schools have what they call a clear backpack policy, and all the bags that the students carry have to be see-through so that we know they're not carrying any guns. Many schools now have metal detectors at the door to look for weapons. This is life in 95% of the schools. They do this. And when you think a little bit, to me, when you think a little bit about these kids, they grow up like this. Once a month, they're taking a training. What does that do to the children when they're thinking about being killed by someone with a gun and they're training for it every month? It's something that just drives me crazy. You're in India. I don't know what you would think if somebody says you have to train your children. Somebody's going to come with a gun and kill everybody, and you have to do the training once a month. I think it's a horrible thing that it's necessary. Where does the money come from? Because I know with the government system in India, this is a picture of a elementary school, and obviously they have quite a bit of money. This is a picture of another school that has much less money, lots of students in the class, no equipment, and in the United States, it works like this. The money for the school comes from the people, the taxes of the people near the school. So here on the bottom, I have a very wealthy neighborhood in Chicago where the people make $300,000 per year, and they pay taxes, and that means their schools get a lot of money. In the inner city of Chicago, the average income is $20,000 per year, and so their schools receive very little money. And I think you're in India, so you can appreciate that very well. It leads to inequality in the society. The rich kids profits, or let's not say rich kids, the affluent, wealthy kids profits from that affluence, and the people who have less suffer from having less. So the system sort of continues the inequality. It doesn't try to fix the inequality. It continues the inequality. And I find that particularly bad. Any questions? I don't have too many more slides. I have a couple of fun slides I wanted to
I think
share.
our teachers are very tired today, you know, the tired look on their face. So normally they ask a lot of questions, but today they are very silent.
No worries, and it's also quite late your time. It's early my time, but
I'm not sure if Rupa is there. Yeah, okay.
Your time. Maybe another thing I'll just leave you is some fun facts of the U.S. that maybe you haven't seen before. And again, I think this may be one reason that so many Indians love coming to the U.S. because in some ways the U.S., in my view, is very, very similar to in Indian society. In India, I don't know how you pronounce the different words, Adivazis or people that are traditional. In America, we have people by religion and culture, and they live the same way that they lived in the year 1700. So they have no electricity, they have no machines, they have nothing modern. They use horses, as you can see here. This is called the Amish. And you'd be surprised to know they're spread out all over the United States. People don't realize that. And if you go to one of these communities, you can buy the best vegetables, you can buy the best food, because they cook everything naturally and take a lot of pride in their work. But they live without any modern technology at all. But these communities work together. So when a house needs to be built, here's a picture of the whole community coming together and building a house, to helping each other out. We have a French influence here in the South. I was going to put a circle around it, but I forgot. So if you look in the South, that was originally belonging to France. And even today, the people here speak French. They have a French culture. They're what we call Cajuns. And it's not unusual to go from village to village, and you'll hear no English. They'll be speaking French. My family now lives in Texas. Texas used to be its own country, and so even today the Texans are very proud. They dress a little bit different. You saw the hat I was wearing and the tie around my neck. We're very proud that it's a different country, and this is the Texas area. And you'd also be surprised to know that in many parts of the country, alcohol is forbidden. You can always own alcohol, but the sale of alcohol is forbidden. So that surprises a lot of people. And again, what you find is that it's in this Bible Belt area, because there's a lot of people that are very religious, and they believe that alcohol, for religious reasons, is bad. So that's something that may surprise you quite a bit. I think that's pretty much the end of my slides. I was trying to show you some aspects of the U.S. that maybe you didn't know about. Any questions?
What about food, Ken? Since we both are foodies.
So, food in the United States, for the affluent people who have money, definitely this trend towards what we call biofoods is very important. People want to know that their food was produced without chemicals, etc. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that often, and this is a big difference with India. I don't know if I can share. If I move this here, can you see my browser? Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so let's say I'm not even sure what to search for. Let me see. What you'll find, obesity in schools. Yeah. What you'll find, and this is a lot different to India. The people in America who have less money, that's often combined with negative self feelings, and they do have enough money to eat, and they make poor food choices, if that makes any sense. And so a lot of times the poorer people in American society are actually the ones that are obese, that have a lot of weight. And you would think from a country like India, okay, if I'm poor, that means I don't have enough to eat. And in America, being poor means you do have enough to eat. It's just because of psychological reasons you eat the wrong types of food. So you will see this in schools, particularly in the schools that in the inner city schools. I don't know if I can find inner city schools. When you go to some of these, I'm not finding any good pictures. I'm sorry. You will find a lot of children that have problems with their weight, and that is because it's coupled to poverty in the United States.
Excuse me, Ken sir.
And actually, if I can say, you said sir. We don't say sir in America. We just say
Sir, 50 to 54% of students they have lunch at school itself. Who provided that, sir? Is that school or government?
The money comes from the government. So the money comes from the government, and the food comes from the school itself.
Like us, how we have to do with the midday meal scheme.
Yeah.
The way it works is, in this case, the teachers don't do that. They have special cooks. Usually, in most cases, they have special cooks that take care of the food situation. When I was young, I was also part of that program, and so I got my food from the school, and it was a very terrible quality food, very terrible. Now, people realize that quality food is very important for the students. So even as you can see here, the students really get a balance of vegetables and proteins and carbohydrates to have a very healthy. I was in that program myself, and in those days, 50 years ago, it was not the high quality that you have today.
Ken, I've noticed one thing, that the students do not wear uniform, unlike in India, because in India uniform is enforced just to have equality between the rich, the poor, so that nobody differentiates. But in US, I don't see children wearing uniform. Is that right?
That is such an interesting question, Arvind. Such an interesting question. So first of all, uniforms are worn normally at private schools and religious schools. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any pictures here, but they're worn at private schools and religious schools. Mm-hmm. For normal schools, there's a huge problem because students and fashion are very, very important. Mm-hmm. And so the schools have very strong policies about what the children are allowed to wear. So they are allowed to wear their own clothes, but what they wear is very regulated. And because, as you can imagine, students that have a lot of money may wear things that the poor students can't afford, or when the students become older and teenagers, there's the romance aspect, and then they're trying to dress to attract the opposite sex. No, there's no school uniforms, but the clothes that they wear are regulated by the school. They have rules and regulations. They have parent what we call, I didn't go through the whole list, but they have what they call parent teachers conferences, and then on a regular basis, the parents come to the school and they meet with the teacher, and then the teacher does a debriefing, usually privately in a one-on-one session with the parents to inform the parents about how the students are doing. There's regular assessments that the students take to make sure they're learning the right amount and the different levels.
Ken, sir?
No, sir, just say Ken.
Okay, sir. Sir, how about the holidays, sir? Because in India, in summer vacations, we give we are giving summer vacation, but during that period also, we conducting summer camps or summer holidays. That time also, students are engaging. What about in America, sir?
A really good question. I can probably write it down here quickly. So in most, it depends on the state and the community. I would say there's what we call summer break, and I think it's usually from about May to September, and then there's no school. So the students are off for the entire summer. The history of that has to do with the farms, because when 100 years ago, summer was the time that people had to work on the farms. So they stopped the school so that the children could go and help with the farms. Usually around April, for 1 week, there's a holiday. There's a Christmas holiday. And then usually there's individual days here and there of different vacations. This day's free, this day's free. But really the big break comes in the summer, and the history of that was that students had to go and work on the farms.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
And one more question, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. In India, we are celebrating a lot of customs. Here, there are so many differences from part to part. From state to state, we have different cultures, customs, and traditions. In America also, I think after listening your presentation, I think there is a lot of differences from part to part. That means from rural states and in rich people who are living in cities. So a lot of differences are there.
I absolutely. I think
Actually, we thought whole America celebrating following the same rituals or same customs, traditions. But there also, just like our India, there are a lot of differences in customs and culture. I just came to know that.
Yeah, I compared to India, I would say the differences are very minor, in my opinion. But you're absolutely right. There are differences. Generally, the people in the South tend to be more what we call conservative, and so they expect the children to have a higher degree of discipline. They expect the children to treat their elders with more respect. In some cases, the class is begun with a prayer, and so before the teaching starts, all the class comes together and they say a prayer. Or for example, at the lunchtime before they eat food, they will say a prayer before they eat food. In other parts of the country, California, where it's not so religious, that's not done. So it's I would say the differences are not so extreme compared to other countries, but yes, there are definitely differences.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Rupa is there or she has left? Can't see her. Okay.
Sir, I am here.
Okay. Any question from your side? It's not a question, but my observation. Like I was in Texas for some time, so in US there are some states like Texas. Ken belongs to that state where the taxes are very low. Okay, so I really enjoyed working in Texas, where even when you go shopping. Even shopping also, taxes are low. It's not like in India where you go anywhere from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or from Kutch to Arunachal. The prices are almost same, right? There'll be small difference, but there, if you stay in a hotel in Texas, the rates are much lower compared to if you stay somewhere near New York or other places. Ken, am I right?
Absolutely. Texas is a place that has no state tax. People only have to pay federal tax, and that again, you saw in the beginning how much I move around in my life, moving to these different places. That's what Americans do, and so Texas and Florida are very attractive places for older people. When they get older, they actually plan to move to these places because the living costs are so low. So absolutely.
Just I want to add here, because when it comes to Texas, just I want to brief the other participants. Texas is more or less similar to India only. When you are in Dallas, just I'll talk about the Dallas. It is popularly known as Dallas Puram. And you will get everything. You will get right from kachai, samosa, mirchi bhaji, to everything. You will never feel that you are in United States.
And Houston is like Chennai. Houston is like Chennai, I say.
Correct.
I was in Houston. The weather, the even the people, and moreover, in this state, you will find more people speaking Spanish. You will be surprised when I landed in Texas at Houston. I saw most of the boards in Spanish more than in English, So, and even the Mexicans look similar to us actually, like Indians. So they were mistaking me to be a Mexican, and they started speaking to me in Spanish. So then I had to say, no, I am from India. Oh, okay, you are from India.
Spanish. So they use only Spanish and English. Instead of that, they have to use other languages.
I missed that last part. What about the languages?
Sir, you said that Americans always use English. You know that, and then you said some of the time they have to use Spanish also. Instead of both language, they use other languages. Very little. Spanish is probably in some areas as important as English. California, Texas. Now when I go back to Texas, I can go into stores. Nobody speaks English. Everyone's speaking Spanish. There's some strange parts of the country where they speak different dialects. But getting back to the children, I can tell you something very important that's interesting. The children that grow up in the big cities, particularly Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and the black children, they don't learn standard English. They learn a dialect of English. It's what they call Black English, and it's a dialect, and that's their first language. These kids grow up in the inner cities, and they don't know standard English. All they know is the dialect, and that really hurts them to find a job, because if they go to interview for a job and they're not comfortable speaking standard English, they're immediately discriminated against. And there's programs. For a while I was part of one of those programs. There's programs to take the children from the city to give them chances to study somewhere else so that they can learn standard English. Because they don't know standard English. They learn this dialect. So that's, and the dialect is associated with poor people. So that's really a big problem that also hurts people moving up, is the way that they speak. And it's really sad because a child doesn't choose to learn the dialect. A child just learns it because everyone's speaking it. And then it hurts them to get success in life.
Can sir, one more question?
Yeah.
Sir, actually, you said there are a lot of shootings that were happening in last so many years, and also at present also in our American schools. Why it was happening, sir? Why it was happening? Because of we don't heard about that in our India. Because of in India there are no that kind of cases are happening. Why it has why it is happening there, sir? What is the reason? Or why can't we stop that? Why can't we stop that?
I don't know where my map is. Here it is. You asked a question that is on television. That's the question you ask is what everybody asks. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's very easy to get guns in America. You can get them all over. But it's easier here in Switzerland to get guns. More people shoot in Switzerland than in the United States. Switzerland is a big country for shooting, but there are no shootings here. The shootings are in the United States. So why is that happening? Why is it getting worse? I think I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I don't think anybody knows. They're trying now to
because of the innocent minds are there. Innocent minds are educating in that schools. But why should they kill that innocent minds?
Yes, instead of schools, why they have to choose a church or a street like that? They have to choose instead of school. Why they have to choose in school itself? There is the big.
For me, that's the obvious part, because if you're a child that's 12 years old or 13 years old, your whole world is the school, and all of your social interactions are the school. And if you have hatred and negativity and you want to kill things, then it's obvious to go to the school, because that's where the center of your world is. So I can understand that, but why it's increasing, why it happens, I don't think anybody knows. And
I thought, sir, moral values are very less in everywhere. I think in not only in America, not only in India, in each and every country suffering moral values, lack of moral values. I think.
No, it is countries like Japan. No, they should adopt the education system from Japan, where for them values, character, morals come first before math, science, geography, history.
Yes,
So
yes, sir.
so I think you have given the right answer actually. So what is lacking is perhaps the education in morals, in values and all these things, to the young kids. The minds are very innocent, as you rightly said.
We are giving much more time for marks,
Correct.
not for the values.
Correct.
values are one thing, but I disagree a little bit, and I think it's also lifestyle. When I was young, growing up, I had dinner with my family. That was a requirement. We ate every day and had a dinner, and we talked about the day, and we had social interactions. And today with social media, that doesn't happen. The mother works, the father works, the whole family eats separately. They come together very unoften. The same way with the social interactions. When I was young, friends.
You are right, sir.
They text each other on their iPhones. So I think that also plays a role. It's not the only role, but morals, social interactions, probably a lot of that stuff.
There is an answer, sir.
There is an answer, yes, sir. Both parents were not caring. They are busy with their earnings. They are busy with their earnings. That's why they can't.
give time.
I thought something
Nuclear families, the joint families, because
big
not
problem.
spending time with the family. So many aspects. That's what you know. Now the way the things are happening is worldwide. It is not what you said correctly. It is not in India. It is not in US. It is worldwide.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the children they are undergoing, the trauma which they are undergoing. Suddenly they find they become frustrated. They are not able to share their emotions with their parents.
Correct.
There are many aspects of it. That's why I'm telling you the biggest problem which the world is facing today is the mental illness.
Correct.
This is the biggest, and this is going to be the biggest challenge for the world to handle it.
Correct. Correct. You're so right, actually. Yeah.
The population is 50-50 in red and blue, sir. But there I saw one thing. In blue color, they are so well educated and post-graduated. And
Rich also.
red is also a rural area. But I recognize one thing.
Ah.
So what's the moral is there? So abortion is normal, legal. But in rural area, there is abortion is illegal. There is a difference we have to see in a city and
Rural areas.
educated people and uneducated.
Uneducated people.
Yes.
What he said is very beautiful. Because
Yeah,
the money,
correct.
once you get money, the values you are losing.
Values are vanished, sir.
Correct.
Exactly, you nailed it actually.
Yeah.
That's what is
Yes.
happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Can you show that screen or the image? Dems versus Republicans. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that
That's a
explains.
beautiful slide. Yes.
Yeah, that
exactly.
explains the
Not this one. The other one.
the other one.
Yes,
Dem,
sir.
yeah.
Next one.
Next one.
This
This
side.
this one.
On to the right. On to the right.
to the right.
Yes.
This one.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one. This one. Yes.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's it was I'll give you-
Yes, they said the post-graduation also. Post-graduation. In that I just saw that.
Very interesting facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very.
Yeah. In fact, I'll give you a story. I have a lot of friends here, and I went to some parties here, where they throw a big party with lots of food. And I was very surprised the first time I went there, because most of us were sitting at the table, but probably 2 or 3 of the ladies were not sitting at the table, because it was their job to take care of the food service for the rest of the people. And for me, coming from a blue state, that was a shock, because where I'm from, everybody's equal, and all the men and all the women are sitting at the table. But for them, it was quite natural that the ladies would be responsible for the food, and that they wouldn't even sit at the table because it's their job to take care of the food. So that also showed a little bit of difference
Correct.
there.
Only sale is prohibited. Alcohol is prohibited, I saw there. If they have to use, it is not forbidden, but for sale is only prohibited. I asked that. They can use.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I take one question? Last question.
Only, yes, selling is only prohibited.
Exactly, and actually, if I go to my other slide, what happens that's very interesting. I don't know where that's at. I had the here. What's very interesting is if you go to a place where it's prohibited, on the border, you will find dozens of places that sell it, so that the people don't have to drive so far.
It's like India.
So it's prohibited here.
In India also, it's the same.
I across the border, and you have 20 stores that sell it.
So many similarities are there.
People are saying men will be men anywhere in the world. Murtikaru, you had a question?
Yeah, only one question I have, Ken. Because in US the education is free up to specified standard, the 10th or 12th, and I heard that thereafter the education is very costly.
Yeah.
Why to provide free education till such standard, and why to charge and why to make it so exorbitant? And my family members who are staying there, they're finding it very difficult to pay that fees. Just any rationale behind it? Why it's so?
My father, I'm a college professor now, but my father became a college professor 20 years ago, and he died last summer at the age of 85, but he was a college professor until he died. So even at the age 84, he was teaching. And that's something we talked about often. And I can give it, I know exactly what the answer is, and I can write it down in one word. And it's greed. That's all there is to it. And in the United States, there's textbooks that the children expected to buy. And these textbooks now, when I was young, they were expensive. A textbook now, instead of costing $10 or $20, it may cost $150 or $200. But the textbook companies are making money. The professors get some of that money when they write a new textbook. The whole postgraduate educational system is really largely about making money, and because the government doesn't regulate that, it's hard to stop it. I would say there are most states have two classes or two categories, what they call, or let's say three, junior colleges, colleges, and universities. And these are run by the state. A junior college is a 2-year program where you can learn skills to get a job. So you can learn how to drive a truck, or to become a welder or a cook. That's the junior colleges. The colleges are less money, and the universities are the most money. And colleges are more about teaching, and universities are more about doing research. But even today, the colleges are becoming very, very expensive. That's absolutely true. And I've talked for 20 years about this with my father, and it's just it's really just greed. Everybody, all the players, they want money.
So no wonder most of the students, they drop out after junior college. They don't complete their education, unlike in India, where you have to get a degree, college degree, university. But in the US, I think most of them drop out, right?
I would say it a bit differently. The Switzerland and Germany do a very good job of connecting students to the world of work. So here in Switzerland, if you're a student, it's the law. It's the law. You must go from a college or from school and transition into a job. That's the law. If you're a student here and you're now at the last level, you can't just not work. It's the law. You must get a job. And in the United States, there is no law like that. In India, there is no law. And so American students that don't have that drive, the motivation, they stop school. They get part-time jobs. They don't make a lot of money. They don't think about their education. And 10 years later, they realize they need an education. So they go to one of the junior colleges, the junior for. So most of the people that my dad taught, he taught for a while in junior colleges, they tended to be older students, typically 30 years old, 40 years old, who realized, wow, I better get a degree. Go back and degree.
Okay. I don't think we have any more questions. We have already crossed 75 minutes. Ken, thanks for this session and answering all the questions. I would also request, of course, in the group, you can share your feedback. I will share it with Ken offline. How you felt about this session? So be as honest and candid as possible. Share the feedback on the group, and I will forward it to Ken. But I loved it actually, though I've been to the US many times, but the lot of revelations that came up today, Ken, thanks to your session. A lot of things which perhaps I was not aware of. That Amish thing, I was not aware of. Wish I had known, I would have gone to one village where the Amish are still around. So I missed that. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was something very. I've heard it for the first time about Amishes.
Yeah,
Amish
and out of
community.
you're an Indian who came to the United States. I'm an American who came to India, and when I came to India, I really feel I understand now why so many Indians like to come to America, because there are differences. Okay, fair enough, but there's lots and lots of similarities, and I feel a little bit comfortable when I'm in India. And I think the Indians, they feel a little bit comfortable in the United States. Switzerland, Germany, that's too extreme. And if, as an American, as an Indian, you come here, it's a little bit difficult. But for me to go to India, or for Indians to come to America, I think we share a lot of things in common.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Ken, on behalf of all the teachers and Murti Garu, and on behalf of Sharada Educational Trust too.